Hi everyone, I hope you guys are doing okay today. Today's video is a quick video I wanted to throw together in order to talk about my 3 days of ownership of this monstrous amplifier, the Mephisto, the Gryphon Mephisto. I brought it home Friday night, so it's been 4 days, I guess you could say. But what I wanted to talk about are couple of things that I think you guys need to realize on the previous video that I played, where you can hear the Mephisto playing a couple of tracks, and I listed out the components in yellow writing. A couple of things. Some people say that the presentation was a little too much or too forceful or too much of a good thing, if you will. And I wanted to just call out that that recording was recorded a little louder than usual. That's number one. So remember, I think I was around probably 87 dBs or something like that. Now keep in mind, we're also listening to the Alexia 2s now. So it's not really just the Mephisto doing the work, right? There is a little more than just the amplifier now. We have a speaker now that can dig way deeper than the Sasha DAW did. I personally would never add any subwoofers to these speakers. I mean, really, in my room, when I crank things up, it feels like a horse is kicking me from behind. I mean, it really is incredible, the massive amount of bottom end that these Alexia 2s have. I will say to you guys that definitely this amplifier, the Mephisto, in my opinion, is certainly a Coliseum on steroids. Okay. I am still learning the amplifier, I must say. I haven't really gotten to, understand enough of the amplifier. I am very well aware of what the Coliseum does, or did for me. It's still here. But I am not 100% synced up with the Mephisto, because I have only had it for 3-4 days. Now, I just got done ordering a critical mass stand for the Mephisto. If you see it on the carpet, that is because unfortunately it doesn't fit on that stand. There is someone apparently who was able to remove the feet from the bottom of the Mephisto and place it on top of the stand. But I decided, you know what, it's 250 pounds. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to be removing feet and go through all that hassle, and then just too much work for me. What I decided to do is sell this stand pretty soon, and then just simply put a critical mass stand that I've been anyway trying to own for a while now, and I just wanted to see what that brand does. I've never owned it, so I guess it will be an opportunity for me to place several amplifiers there and to see what it does. In addition to that, I have been trying to play with different power chords. I tried the Odin ones. I tried the AudioQuest Thunder Hurricanes as well. I've been playing a little bit with the positioning of the Alexia 2s. As you can see, I have things marked. The line that you see on the front, the very first blue line, that is where the front of the Sasha DAW was. So as you can see, I have the Alexia about a foot, about 16 inches back. And what I'm trying to do is just to create a little more sense of space by putting the speaker farther back, since you really don't need to have the speaker so close to you, because it is a larger speaker. It doesn't need to be really so much in your face, if you want to say that. They're approximately about 10 feet away, 10 feet and a half away from me right now. And they're I'm still playing with it, but this speaker is still new. Okay, so it is going to change. The woofers need to get loose, the tweeter needs to open up even more, and I'm sure that's not going to be the final spot where they're going to be. I mean, I am just kind of playing an inch at a time, and seeing what happens to the tonality. I'm also playing with the modules. If you guys know, the modules can be adjusted here. In case you guys don't know, you can adjust the tweeter right there. And also, of course, you can adjust the steps on here for the mid-range module. You can put a spike there, and it tells you, the manual gives you all sorts of instruction for you to kind of dial in the speaker. This is why when you see the speaker, you can pretty much see that the head, the top module is a little farther back. That's because of the calculations that Wilson Audio has suggested that I do on the manual. Now, that doesn't mean that's where it's going to be. I'm still going to keep playing with it, so those settings, I'm sure they're going to change. I also went ahead, guys, and ordered some cable lifters, some AudioQuest suspenders, I want to say they're called. They're like $150 for 8 of them. You can find them online. So I bought 3 sets, so I bought 24 of them. The goal here is going to be now to, number one, get all those cables off the floor. So I'm going to have 24 of those little suspenders. I'm going to get all those cables off the floor all the way to the wall. Anything that you see here, I can't do anything about behind the rack, okay? But anything on the floor here is going to be suspended. I am going to be using those AudioQuests to be able to see what happens to the tonality. I know it's going to improve. It's really going to improve for sure. So I know that those tweakers that are always telling me, guys, I got a stand coming, and I also have some cable suspenders, okay? So that's going to be here. We're going to do it. I told you, just give me some time. Let me get around to it. Also this amplifier motivates me to do that kind of stuff, Not that there's anything wrong with the JC1s or the Merrill Audios. It's just, for some reason, this amplifier is so resolved. It's got such a crazy amount of transparency. That's the key. If you see right now, this is the setup, right? Now you guys are curious, okay? So this is what the setup is. Odin, Valhalla 2s, and I got Hurricanes power cords, dual. If you see, one is going to the outlet, the 20 amp outlet there, and then the other one is going to a separate 20 amp outlet there. So I have 2 separate 20 amp outlets connected into this monster to give it enough power so there's no hiccups here. I don't want to be missing out on anything of this amplifier. Now, a couple of notes. I'm reading my notes. Excuse me for a minute. I just want to make sure that I'm touching on a few of the things that I wanted to talk about. People ask me the differences between the Coliseum and the Mephisto. And these differences that I have so far identified, I want to say that they are only with 4 days of ownership. So I am sure they may shift a little, okay? But I wanted to just give you guys, those of you who are very eager to hear. Number one, the Coliseum, in my opinion, is an easier amplifier to live with. Easier to dial in. It's easier to make it sound good. What does that mean? What that simply means is that amplifier has the ability to come into your room and play nice with all the components that you have. Okay, it is more than likely going to really sound amazing with your speakers and your components. The Mephisto has definitely an intensity, a feeling of tonality that's much more on steroids throughout the entire frequency range. It doesn't run, by the way, it does not run as hot as Past Labs, which is very surprising. The Mephisto has been on yesterday. I had it on for about 10 hours straight, and I listened to about 6 hours critically. It runs hot, but it isn't really Past Labs hot. It isn't really XS300 hot. It isn't really burning hot, like even tube amplifier hot. It isn't, which I was very shocked to see that. As a matter of fact, another interesting fact I know you guys want to know is, guys, the 2 JC1 plus monoblocks, in my opinion, put out more heat than one single Mephisto. I do believe that is the case. The JC1 Plus idling really get hot. Okay, so another thing, I'm just looking through my notes. I want to make sure I don't miss anything here in terms of that. Okay, another thing that I have discovered, a couple of things that I have discovered with the Mephisto. It's more transparent. What does that mean? This is not the amplifier that, in my opinion, you bring home and you think you're going to do what you can do with the Coliseum. That means this amplifier really needs the supporting cast to go with it. Okay, it doesn't play very nice when you have subpar cabling or any sort of component. It really doesn't. If you put it in your house, it'll literally call you out and tell you this room sucks, this floor is dirty, this room is a mess. If it could talk to you, it would call you out on your BS. That's the Mephisto. It doesn't play. Okay, Coliseum it's just nice. It's a nice amplifier to play with. It doesn't do that to you. This one will do that. However, one of the differences is this. You could put a recording on a Coliseum or a Momentum HD. Let's just say the recording is on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest and the best. Let's say the recording is a 2, right? 1970, Led Zeppelin, whatever you want to call it, whatever rock music you feel it's not recorded great. A Momentum and a Coliseum will make that recording sound like a 4, maybe even a 5, even though it is recorded as a 2. A Mephisto will make it sound like a 2. It's not going to sugarcoat it. Okay, now, let's say you play a recording that is a 10, best of the best, most resolution, some of the best songs you've heard, right? Some of the best recordings you've heard. A Coliseum will attempt to do a 10 and probably land at a 9. A Momentum will try to do a 10 and probably land at an 8. The Mephisto will do a 10. Okay, see the difference? It will give you the 10 of the recording. Also, I have noticed that through the Mephisto, and it could be a combination of the Alexia as well, guys. Okay, so my comments also have to do, I would say, partially, we would have to attach those to the Alexia. I am going to tell you that if you are a DCS owner, I never thought, okay, see these filters right there on the clock? Okay, those two first buttons on the left, there's supposed to be some sort of a filter that's on the clock that's supposed to do something and help you with something and make the music better. Well, guys, I used to try playing with that forever and ever, and I did push on and off and couldn't hear a difference. Could not hear a difference, guys. Okay, I can hear a difference now with the Alexia 2 and the Mephisto. It reconstructs the music. Those buttons make a difference. When you turn them on, it feels as if someone came in and added more organic feeling to the presentation. That was never so apparent before in any of my systems. So that I can tell you, it is talking about the transparency of these two components together, the synergy that they have. Also, there is a song that I played on my previous video where I was displaying the Mephisto for the first time, with the description in yellow. That first song that was playing, I played it, and it was from QO Buzz, right? High resolution. Then I went ahead and I found it on Tidal, and I found it on MQA. Turns out that now I can tell a difference between MQA high res and Tidal MQA. Obviously, it is going to be song dependent, but I can tell you now, at least with that particular song, the MQA version has less bass, but there is a lot more decay. There's a lot more imaging. There's a lot more movement of instrumentation from left to right, right to left. The high-res resolution of QO Buzz has more bottom end, more meat on the bones, but it doesn't have all the resolution than the MQA version from Tidal does. So again, those are little things that I've started to notice that I never really noticed before so easily. Okay, another thing I have noticed, talking about, going back to my statement about cables. I have tried I've tried a lot of cables, guys, and even cables that I haven't really shown on my channel. I've tried all sorts of brands, and I continue to go back and back and forth, trying to see if I can find a better cable than a Nordos Odin cable, power cord to be specific, for my DAC. And I have not been able to find one, guys. I really can tell you that I just fail constantly. I try the Hurricane power cords that you see on the Mephisto, which, by the way, they're high current. In case you do not know, if you have an AudioQuest power cord that is categorized as high current, what that means is it's designed for amplifiers, but it also works for sources and pre-amplification. Now, if you buy just a regular AudioQuest Hurricane, that is the non-HC or high current, that only works for sources. That's not recommended for power amplifiers. So you are better off buying an AudioQuest cable of whatever model you buy. You're better off buying the HC version, because that gives you the ability to place it with sources or power amplifiers. Anyhow, I tried the power cords on my clock, and then I put the Odin on the amplifier. Obviously, the amplifier gave me a little more resolution, but also the decay fell flat on its face. What I felt now was that I was playing music from a 1080p source as opposed to a 4K source. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's what happened. Now, it still sounded beautiful. I'm not going to say it didn't. It still sounded gorgeous. But it just gave me that feeling that the overall liquidity went backwards when I did that. The Gryphon added more detail, but I do believe it could have had more detail if I had Odin on the clock and the DAC as well. But I don't have 4 Odin power cords. I only have 2. So the experimentation here was just to see which power cord goes where, and I found that the best results are always with Odin on my sources. It just adds more information. In addition to that, I also discovered, I do not know if you guys remember, if you look back, in one of my previous videos, there was a video there that was talking about the Denali Shunyata power conditioner and the Niagara 5000 AudioQuest, which is what I have. And I can tell you now, okay, when I have the DCS DAC and clock using Odin 1 power cords connected into the Niagara 5000, I get a lot more resolution. There's a lot more information coming through at the expense of more brightness. So I have to be always mindful of the volume level. If I put that volume where you see it there, right there, that would be like, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock more or less, right? If I put that volume there and that DAC is connected to the Niagara, and I play music that's not necessarily good music, I last maybe 30 minutes before I have to start turning it down, because the brightness begins to invade my hearing, my ears. I begin to get fatigued. Now, if the volume there is at around the 9 o'clock position, I'm good. I'm good for hours. Okay, but that usually brings me the volume at around 76 dBs. And to me, I don't know, you could say I haven't been trained long enough to listen to music at that level. Maybe when I'm older, I'll have to. But right now, I really want to hear the meat on the bones from the Alexias. Anyway, so that's one thing. Now, when I grab these power cords, the Odin 1 power cords from this DAC, and I go straight into the back outlet, which is what I'm doing now. That's an AudioQuest outlet there that you see. All of a sudden, the brightness has diminished tremendously. I lost some information, but there's still plenty of information. And now I can listen for hours at that volume. Now I can go for hours and hours. Okay, so that's one thing that I can say to you. It is very interesting how I am able to understand now what the Niagara 5000 is doing with my DAC. So at a high level, I am going to say the AudioQuest 5000 adds a lot more information. It could be beneficial for those of you who have speakers that are just too dark sounding. They're too rolled off. I think putting your source in that is going to allow you to hear more information and more detail. Okay. Also learned that those DCS filters in this DAC, on the actual DAC, there are some filters that you play with that are supposed to somehow change the tonality of the DAC. They don't do a damn thing, guys. There's nothing there. Nothing happens. I think that's just gimmick. Those filters, and if DCS is hearing this, I'm telling you, your filters do not do a damn thing. Those filters inside your DAC, map, filter 1, 2, 3, 4, and all those things, they don't do a damn thing. Okay, I would hear it. Believe me, I would hear it right now. They don't do anything. Let me see. Another thing that's something pretty sad, I would say, one thing that's very sad about the Mephisto is this. Those recordings that you love growing up, that you enjoyed, they are not going to be very pretty here. They simply just won't. They're just going to sound probably worse than you've ever heard them before. I wouldn't be shocked if your car stereo plays those songs better than the Mephisto can, because it is just too ruthless when it comes to garbage. It can't make music that doesn't exist for you. You know what I'm saying? It's not a processor. It is just it's a window with muscle behind it, giving you exactly what you have into the music. Some people have said to me, well, Jay, you know, you have the Alexia 2s, but how do we know if maybe what you're hearing are the Alexia 2s and not the Mephisto? And that's a great point. It's a very good point. And to be honest with you guys, I want to be sincere. I still need to figure that out myself. I want to hear what it is that the Alexias are doing that the Sasha DAWs did not do. I can tell you at a high level, the Sasha DAW never went as low as the Alexia 2. And I feel personally, this is my personal opinion, I feel that Mephisto there is better suited for an Alexia or above than a Sasha. Here's why, and the best analogy that I think you guys can understand. If you have a car that can go 220 miles an hour, but you don't have the enough road space to accelerate and get to 200 miles an hour, basically it's pointless, right? Meaning you need to have the space to make that car go 220 miles an hour. The Sasha can only go so low in terms of bass. So you're never really going to hear how low and powerful and muscular and the control of the Mephisto is with the Sasha, because it doesn't dig that deep to begin with. Does that make sense? You're basically paying to have better bass control, but you're somewhat limited because of the speaker. So to me, it's kind of like you're making 3 steps. You're taking 3 steps forward and going 2 steps back by choosing a speaker that can't really untap the potential of your amplification. This leads me to another point. Okay. Yes, there is more resolution between the Mephisto and the Coliseum. There's no question about it. And you are paying more money because it definitely adds a lot more to the presentation than the Coliseum does. And it should, because if you guys do not know, the current price on the Mephisto is actually $61,000. I verified that. So that's a $12,000 difference between the Mephisto and the Coliseum MSRP. Okay, so what does that mean? This is what that means for the person that decides to buy the Mephisto. So you go all out. You buy that amplifier and you say to yourself, hey, I want to hear everything, right? I want to hear everything that this thing has to give me and hear the music as it is. Okay, so you buy that. Great. Then someone says, I'm going to use an audio research reference 6 SE. See, my mind, from what I know so far, tells me, well, Jay, you just undid what you did by buying this. You're like, why? Why would that be? Because you're adding tubes. And if you guys know anything about tubes, Tubes are meant to make music. They're meant to make just your ears get attracted to the sound and the harmonic distortion of the tubes, okay? But tubes also mask the nuances and the added information that this thing is giving you. So when you put something this revealing into a tube line stage, it could be a great combination in terms of enjoyment. I'm not taking that away from it. But what I'm saying is if you're going here for transparency, for resolution, for accuracy, by you going with this, you're taking away a lot of what you're paying for here. Does that make sense? That's what I feel. Now, on paper, we're going to put it into practice eventually. We're going to hear both together, and maybe we prefer this combination over this with that. Maybe that combination sounds nicer, but you're going to be missing information no matter how you slice it and dice it. I've already tried this, guys. Tube line stages do not have the amount of information that a solid state line stage does. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't exist. Okay? And they're not trying to do that anyhow. They're not. They really aren't. Okay? So I wanted to address that. We're going to try it to see what happens. But I don't think that it makes sense on paper anyway. Maybe I own it just because maybe someday I just don't want to worry about the resolution too much and be analytical. Just want to enjoy the music, and move on from that. Another thing you got to remember, a tube line stage is amazing with older music. If your music selection falls in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, or even 90s, and you just love bad recordings, you just happen to enjoy them, you are the person that should be buying a tube line stage. That's you. You should be that person right there. Okay? Because that's going to make you enjoy everything. Everything you throw at it will be enjoyable. All right? Keep that in mind. Let me see. I'm looking at my notes. I'm sorry. Again, another thing I wanted to address was people are asking me, am I looking for a preamplifier? I am looking for a preamplifier for the Mephisto because I do believe that when it comes to amplification, I am really at a very high level, near the top of the mountain. No, I'm not going to say it is the best amplifier out there because I don't believe that exists. I think for what I have owned personally, it could be top. It could be number one for me, or number two. If we want to argue another amplifier that I've had, who knows? But I feel like in order for me to improve upon the Mephisto, it would take an amplifier or monoblocks that are north of $100,000. And at that point, I have to kind of pump the brakes and realize and get a reality check and say, not going to do that. Just I know myself. Now, of course, if someone calls me and somehow a deal lands on my lap that I couldn't say no to, then yeah, for all you know, you'll see something else here. But outside of that special scenario, I probably won't be able to go up the ladder from here because financially it is a huge investment. Huge investment. Let me see. I am looking, guys, for one last bit of comments that I had written here about the Mephisto. No, I mean, power cords and cabling are huge, guys, for this amplifier. If you think you're buying a Mephisto, writing the check or wire transfer or whatever method of payment you want to use, and you're bringing it home, and you're done, oh boy, you are in for a rude awakening. That is far from the truth with this amplifier. This amplifier, in my opinion, is an amplifier that you're just bringing the main ingredient to the kitchen. Now you got to get to cook. You can have the best ingredients, but if the chef sucks, the dinner will too, right? It won't be any good. It's the same thing, guys. You must remember when you bring something like this, it'll make you check everything else around it. Everything, power cords, speaker cables. I just did a demonstration on my own using the Cardas Clear Beyond XLRs coming from the preamplifier into the DAC. Then I used the Wireworld Platinum 7. Then I used the Valhalla 2. Every single cable sounded different, but it was easy to tell. It was just close your eyes and I knew. I knew immediately if I had a Valhalla in there or I didn't. It was this fast. Because it just talks to you. It reads everything upstream, all your components. Okay? But anyway, those are my initial impressions of the Mephisto. I wanted to just let you guys know. And as time passes, I'll be able to talk a little bit more about it. I promise that there are 2 or 3 more videos that I will be uploading throughout the week about my visit at Suncoast Audio. I do have, in case you want to know what they are, the Essence Gryphon driving a pair of Estelon's Forza speakers, and I also have another video of that same Essence Gryphon driving a pair of Fine Audio F112 speakers. Stay tuned for that. You're not gonna want to miss that. I use my microphone in my recordings, so things that you guys have heard in my room with my gear, I went over to Suncoast Audio and I recorded the same songs but with the gear that they have there. And I think you guys are going to find very, very interesting the videos that I'm going to upload. And hopefully you guys like what you hear. Okay, so that's all I got for now, guys. I hope you guys learn a little bit about the differences here and also my comments on the line stage and the tube preamplification and when I feel you should use it and not use it. Okay? Please have a great rest of your week and subscribe. Hit that like button. Keep hitting that button. It helps me. It helps the channel push forward. That's what keeps me motivated to keep bringing more crazy gear for you guys to hear and see. Take care and good night.